Today's episode is about hardship. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at what it is, how it behaves. But we're also going to talk about the really crucial pieces, how to overcome it, how to deal with it when it is hard, and how to work with it so we can become a greater person. So stay tuned. So today's episode is about hardship. And this comes from a discussion I just had recently with younger people where we were talking about hardship. And one thing which saddens me, especially when I see a lot of young people, is they try to dodge it. They try to avoid it. And by that, they stay very low below their potential. And they try to avoid it because they're afraid of it often. And it's like with stocks. The problem with hardship is the same with stocks. If you don't invest in your younger years, you will not get the big rewards later, because you see, through hardship you grow. We will get into that later. And by that, you will get big rewards very quickly after a few years, but you need to go through it. And the big problem is with hardship that hardship is a constant in life. You can't erase it. It will always come back. It's one of those things where we often fight ourselves, that we say we don't want life to be that hard. And we fight ourselves on the path to enlightenment and self-cultivation. That's one of the barriers, where you need to understand that certain things are the way they are, and you need to find a way to make peace with them. That things are just not the way we like them to be. And hardship is one of those, because hardship always comes back. For example, if you don't take care of your health, if you don't do sports, you're going to have health issues later, you see. Or the second one, if you don't build up skills, very useful skills, and you're not very skillful to help other people then later on and provide a benefit to others and to society, then you will gonna have a hard life too, because you're more or less useless. And then, you will have problems finding a job or making a living. You will have trouble providing for your family if you even get to that point, if you have no skills and you're just highly unattractive because of that. You see. So you shouldn't act out of fear that you wouldn't achieve something if you don't do it. But you should definitely be scared of it in a reasonable sense. But you should also see how much there's to gain if you go into hardship, that you can become a really great person. And that person, that love you have for that vision, which pulls you forward, that is what you need to grab. But you still need to, don't let the fear drive you, but be aware of it. That's really important. Otherwise, you will lose yourself on the way. One crucial difference is also when you embrace hardship, and between avoiding hardship and not avoiding it. When you try to avoid hardship and it comes later, you have no control. You see, if you go forward in life, if you move actively, if you search for hardship, what sports do I want to do? What skills do I want to learn? How can I improve myself? How can I have a better relationship with my partner? How can I have a better family? You see, it's all of this is active. You move forward. You have the control over these situations. You can choose how much you engage in which. You can try to balance things. You have a lot of control in these situations. But on the other side, if you try to avoid hardship, they will always come back. And in those situations where hardship comes back from behind, you have no control. If you have health issues and diseases in the end because you didn't take care of yourselves, you will have passivity. You cannot control in that moment what's going on really that much anymore. And we saw that a lot, especially me and my friend Michael. My friend Michael here has the channel Daomonk World, and he teaches internal martial arts and is also doing self-cultivation together with me. And we see sometimes people coming also at a higher age, and they try to turn things around because now disease is struck and they try to get better. But then it's already pretty late because it already piled up. You see, it's very hard to turn the ship around when it has gone in the wrong direction for so long. And then you have very little control in those situations. And this is quite sad to us, which is fine. We may all make our decisions. But it's always sad to see that people are so far below their potential and in the end get these very difficult years, especially towards the end. But okay. So never forget, try to be active. Search actively for hardship and you're gonna be fine. But don't try to become passive. That is just extremely dangerous in life. Now, hardship and me, we have a hate-love relationship. Because most of the time when you endure hardship, you will always hate it. It's just how it works. But afterwards, you'll see it from a different angle. And the big problem is why it is so annoying, because of course it's always active. You always need to do something. You always need to be focused. I mean, if you have people, you need to actively listen to them to have a good relationship with them. So you know what they need and you can react to that in the right, proper way. You have to stand up actively every morning early to do, for example, sports. At least I do that. And it really helps me a lot. And what really gets me moving is I know that it's hard. I hate the hardship. But I know if I don't do the hardship, I will hate it even more. So I beat hatred with even bigger hatred. No, just kidding. But it's really like that. I hate it, but I would hate it even more if I wouldn't do it. And you need to learn that too. One crucial part of this is don't think too much about how you dislike it. You're a pattern, so you like rhythms. That is just how the human works. So try to find a rhythm. And in that rhythm, it really helps if you have a schedule. And in that schedule, that you get it so deeply engraved into yourself that you don't need to think much about it. And this goes even further, that even in those moments where hardship comes in, you need to try to control your mind in a certain way. You can't control the thoughts which come up, but you can't control what happens. For example, last winter I was with a very good friend on the Azores, and we were bathing in the sea. And he had big trouble in the beginning going in because it was cold. I didn't find it that cold, honestly, but okay. And the thing was that many people, when they try to go in, the following happens. They go in, then it comes like, oh, this is cold. Ah! You get it. And then, you know, they startle and they don't want to go. And then they have this, I don't want, it's cold. You know, you have this voice rattling, blah, 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 blah. And the trick is actually, for example, if you go in a little bit or half or whatever, and just give yourself, I don't know, 10 seconds, let your body adjust. And whenever that thought comes, it's cold, just push it away and just let the cold do whatever it does to you. It won't kill you anyway so fast. You know, it's easy. When that cold comes and it does its thing and you relax, it's actually maybe just 20% as bad as when you listen to that voice. So you see that head you have that amplifies all the time. It's an extreme amplifier of your hardship. So in the moments where you manage to silence your head, you are actually much stronger and can do much, much more of hardship and go even more to the limit. That is really, really, really helpful. And what I just told you, it's not that you can do that once and you learn that. You need to do it constantly to keep it up in your system, to learn that you need to handle your thoughts in that moment of hardship. So what I really recommend is have a daily practice or some practice throughout the week where you actively, regularly engage in hardship at least once a week. And you challenge yourself in that moment. And then you try to probe yourself and control yourself. And you will forge yourself into something really, really much greater than you are currently if you do that regularly. Now, one crucial lesson is still that once you start now building up more and more and more and more hardship in a sense that it forges you and you train that, the big problem is that training will not be constant up. You will not have constant progress. You will be stuck most of the time on even levels, on a plateau. So that is really, really hard, these moments, because these plateaus, they can stretch very long. They can stretch very, very long. They can stretch a year. Sometimes they also can stretch multiple years. It also depends on what you do. But just that you know, this is hard. It's freaking hard busting your butt all the time without gaining more. And that is really, 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 really difficult to get there. And I had sometimes a year where I didn't make a little bit of a progress until I changed something or until it just built up. And then all of a sudden, bam, the whole dam breaks and you get to the next level. And that is entirely normal. It's just crucial that you never give up in these moments. And many, many of these problems I had in my life, like drinking alcohol, I could not give up alcohol. And I was drinking just a little. I was never known for drinking alcohol. I just drank always very, very little. But this little was so hard for me to give up. It was just incredible. It took me 7 times to give up alcohol. But I tried again, and I tried again, and I tried again, and I tried again. It was flipping forward, backward. You need to see. But at some point, it will snap. If you try long enough, if you try hard enough, even if you are on a plateau, you will get that breakthrough if you just spend the time on it. And that is entirely normal. And just endure it. You can do that. Now, the reason why many don't make it is because they don't do the hard choices and hard changes. That is just the truth. Most people know what to do. Most people really know what to do. And if they don't know, it usually suffices to have a talk here and there with someone and for a few minutes or half an hour, whatever. Usually after that, at least when I have good friends around, it's so easy. They reflect on me, they help me. And then it becomes very quickly clear what to do, you see. But words are so easy. And action is everything. Action is hard. Execution is hard. It's easy to say, I want to stop alcohol, but it's pretty hard doing it. For real. You see. And that is also why I usually don't listen that much to people, what they say. Because they can tell me everything all day long as they can tell you everything all day long. But look at their actions. Their action is speaking a lot. And that really makes a big difference. So forget the words and look at the actions, and don't let them tell you what that action is supposed to be. Often too many try to hide it and just come up with excuses and whatever. If the action looks like it, it is what it is. You see. When it comes to hard changes and hard choices, responsibility is a core piece. Responsibility can hold you back, but it can also propel you. For example, if you have to take care of a family, many consider that as a burden, right? That you have a family, you have kids, you need to provide for them and so forth. But at the same time, they are also a really great propulsion. Let's say you lose your job. If you have kids at home, you will make sure that you get another job very quickly because you need to provide for them. You need to take care of them. So you see, responsibility can also be a great motivation. It's the same with a partner. If you have a good partner, you need to take care of that partner. You need to spend time with that partner regularly, multiple times a week. For example, me and one girlfriend, we always allocated the last 30 minutes of the day we spent together, even if we're too tired to talk, but just for each other. That was already helping a lot to us. So it takes time to do that. But at the same time, if your partner helps you to become a better person, that is very well invested. If that person supports you and pushes you forward and helps you become the greater person, that is just incredible. So you see that responsibility becomes positive. But at the same time, and that is the difficulty of life, if you get a partner which is really difficult, who's maybe bipolar, who's maybe narcissistic, one of these things, and they are attached to something, they can't handle certain things in life, for example, and then you get the real big problem that sucks a lot of energy because you need all the time to deal with them. And you try to move forward and you try to move forward, but you can't because you need to stick to that person, because you stick with that person. You can't get to certain levels up there. And that is also quite crucial that you decide how far you want to go, because you might have to leave a lot of people, if not everyone, at some point behind. It's just how the game works. You can't move forward because you see, they will see you in the way they learned to get to know you. You will change, but sometimes they just can't grasp it because they're in their little world. They will squeeze you back when you meet them all the time in the little box, how they see you, and that is just unfit. And that's also, it's fine. Just decide for yourself, do you want that? Or do you want that in front? And if yes, then move on. Make the hard choice. You need to leave behind when you really want to go far, definitely. I can guarantee you, you won't get with very little tiny steps somewhere. So be really careful with responsibility. It can be both a burden and it can be great at accelerating yourself. So when that situation comes where you have a choice for responsibility, maybe take good care to analyze it quietly. Maybe not, marry very right away. Maybe first get to know the person better and try to build up a relationship, before you are responsible for the other person. Whatever suits you, maybe some people, they'll just like to go in quite crazy and wild, and I respect that too. Sometimes that works out, and I have no clue why. And the universe sometimes breaks the rules and it works fine, and it's just amazing. But yeah, just be really careful with responsibility. And while we're still at relationships are hard. Relationships are very hard. You need to constantly sit down with your partner. You need to talk about what's running well, what's not running well. And that is friction. And hopefully not too much friction. All the time, friction is definitely not good. In psychology, they have a balance. And this comes from Gottman, that the magic ratio is 5-1, which means that for 5 good feelings, you should have 1 negative feeling. And that is really healthy for a couple, because if you don't have friction at all, you will never solve anything and you will never get anywhere, and you never work out the friction or the problems you have, and they will always be there, and at some point it will just explode, because that's usually how it goes. So 5-1 is the ratio. And while we're already at relationships are hard. They are really incredible, but they are incredibly hard. You see, when you come together, you are both 2 patterns, and you automatically get friction when you get together. If you put 2 people on close space, it's the same rule in the universe always. 2 people very close, you will get automatically friction because some things they won't work and so forth. It's just how it is. And you're also physically different. Women just function to a certain degree differently than men. And that will just cause also friction. And you need to sit down in these moments and work it out together. And also, one incredible, very, very useful part about a relationship is you have a mirror. You have a person which sees usually everything because you're so close to each other. And then you need both sit down, have the decency to talk it out in love and more or less calm, but not always. I think every relationship has a shoe flying usually at some point through the room. But you get the idea. You need to get it out, whatever is there. And once it's out, even if there's a shoe flying and through that it's out, at least it's out. Then you can both sit down and look at it and act on it. And that is incredibly hard. But it's also incredibly great in my eyes, because that is the way how you can really become a greater person out of a relationship. And that's why it's so valuable. And also a really nice part is in China, they also have, in terms of cultivation, many people think it's just monks sitting alone, blah, 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 blah. But in Taoism, they also have couple cultivation, where two people come together and they cultivate together. And that's quite valuable because you have this other person as a mirror, but also as a helper with their energy. And if their energy is really great too, very strong, then it doesn't add up. It's like a product of two numbers. It explodes much more, but it's also much harder to work with because you have this incredible friction of the two patterns. So you see, that is why relationships are incredibly hard, but also very valuable if you can work them out. And whatever path you go, whether you want to do it alone or you want to do it with a partner when it comes to cultivation, it's going to be fine in both ways. But you can choose which way to go, maybe also just for some time. You need to decide for yourself what you want in life. But never forget, either way is going to be fine if you do it the right way. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and like if you liked the episode. Please let me also know in the comments. I would be curious about what hardships you had and how you overcome them. Maybe also little tricks and lessons you had to endure them better. And otherwise, see you soon.